Our family is just getting bigger and bigger. Welcome to 657 AM.
We're continuing the series. Pumalele is on the line. How are you doing, Ma?
Hi, Bunolo. I would also like to greet your listeners.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. I'm really excited about this particular series. I think that with all the facts that we've already covered last week about how women live longer than men, we earn less generally, and we're generally more timid when it comes to dealing with our finances. I love the empowering nature of this, and I certainly hope that people are taking notes and that they will apply. Now, last week we didn't have a lot of time, and you touched on a few things at the beginning of the conversation. I think you talked bond protection policy and using debt to your advantage. One of the things that I wanted to ask was, generally because as women or mothers, we care about our children. One of the things at the forefront of our minds is the education policy, right? Because we're thinking, just now they're going to go to varsity, it's going to cost me 100,000 of rent, then what am I going to do? So you automatically think, open an education policy and that should sort me out. But I noticed in your comments here that you said that a thing of the past. So I wanted to know, why is it so tricky, and what then is the alternative?
Okay. Bonolo, if you ask any parent who has children that has gone to varsity and maybe they are professionals today, one of the things that they will tell you is the disappointment that they have when after 18 years of saving in these education policies, and it's time now for the child to go to university, and they go to apply for the education policy to pay the fees.
Yeah.
They are shocked that after all these years, there's just so little money there. Now, that is why I say they are a thing of the past, because there are better ways now to invest for the tertiary education of your children, post-matric education. And you could actually use these methods even for primary school, high school, and so forth. Why were education policies, why do I call them the thing of the past?
Yeah.
We must understand that in terms of finance, an education policy is what is referred to as an endowment policy. That policy comes with terms and conditions which are not customer-friendly. Older generation products are not customer-friendly. That is why, on an ongoing basis, they continuously improve these products. One of the conditions, or some of the conditions that come with these education policies, being endowment policies, are the following. One, tax. Tax is within the policy at 80%. So it does not matter what tax bracket you're in. You could be in a very low tax bracket, but just because you are now using an education policy, you could then end up paying more tax than you would, based on your income. So that is the first point. And the second point is they come with lock-in periods. The minimum lock-in period being 5 years. Now, a lot can happen in 5 years. You could take an education policy when your child is 5, honestly hoping and, wanting to ensure that you only access the money when they turn 19 and they go to university. But life happens.
Yeah.
And if you then need the money, they then pull out the minimum waiting period of 5 years. What if you cannot wait? Then they charge you what is referred to as an early withdrawal penalty.
Sure.
So that is not friendly, because you were investing with the hope that your money would be higher, but these two things, the early cancellation penalty and the high tax, they eat into your returns. And also the fact that we as financial advisors, when we give you an endowment policy, in most instances, we still get our commission upfront. I have seen people with education policies with lock-in periods of 10 years, 15 years, and I think, my goodness, because what it means is that commission that is paid to us as your advisor is taken out of your money. So your money is from the word go, is not giving the leverage to grow to your benefit.
Sure.
And that is why I honestly say for me, an endowment policy is something of the past. I use it in specific conditions only. For business people, for instance, because they come with an insolvency protection. So if your business goes under and you've had an endowment policy that has been running for, I think, for about 3 years or so, they cannot attach it. So it's got its place. And also if I'm dealing with high net worth income customers who are paying tax at 45%.
Yeah.
So for them, the 30% tax is actually a saving. But for most of us, and especially if we're using it for education policies, it's just not the place to go. So with that, what are the alternatives? Because I think that was a question.
Yes.
What should we do then as parents to still ensure that we have made sufficient provision for our children when they need to go to varsity? For me, tax-free investment is the way to go these days. They were introduced 1st of March 2015. So some of us still don't know about them. And as the name says, tax-free. So all your returns are not taxed. And also unknown to many people, there are no performance fees. Because when you invest money, and if the investment gives good positive returns, sometimes investment houses charge you performance fees. But if it's a tax-free investment, there are no performance fees. So for me, that is the best place to go. You're saving on tax, and there is no lock-in period.
Yeah.
So if you start, investing for your child who is 5 years old, and your intention is you are going to keep this going until they go to varsity, if life happens and you really need to access that money, you are going to have access to your money without paying any penalties. And chances are your money will have grown much more because there's no tax, there's no withdrawal penalties, and you can access your statement as and when you want to see what the growth is on your money.
All righty. It sounds good. It sounds like a definite alternative to work with. So let's talk a little bit about investing now, because this particular one can be very intimidating because, just the word.
Yes, I know.
It sounds like, where do I even begin? So what are some of those basic principles to remember when it comes to investing?
I think for me, one of the most important things that I want us as women to understand is that there's a difference between banking and investing.
Okay.
I'm often surprised when women say, yes, I have an investment. And I say, where? Oh, I won't mention names, but of course it's a bank.
Yes.
And I say, what kind of investment? Oftentimes a 32-day notice account or some fixed deposit account. And I say, what is the interest? 9 out of 10 times, they don't know. So we must understand that there's a difference between banking and investing. And you should know when you are banking and you must know when you are investing.
Okay.
Now, the basic principles of investing is when we invest, we invest because we want good returns on our money. Otherwise, we might as well put it under the mattress at home. And the reality is some of the so-called investments are as good as putting your money under the mattress. So if your aim is to get good returns on your money, from the word-go, when you put the money in, you should be given what is referred to as a fund fact sheet.
Okay.
We should give you an indication of what the past performance of this particular investment is. Even though the past is not necessarily, will be the same as the future, but it gives you some idea. So don't even put your money anywhere and call it an investment if you have no clue how that particular investment has performed in the past.
Okay.
And what are the chances of that investment continuing with good returns in the future? I don't want to mention names or anything like that, but just to highlight something. Right now, we all know if you're in investment, you know that properties are something to run away from.
Yeah.
Because, let me qualify that, commercial and industrial property is not where you want to invest your money right now, because
we're all working from home.
Those sectors have just not performed well in the past.
Yeah.
And who is to say when the sector will recover? Because there's going to be a new normal. Working from home, downsizing of office spaces, and so forth. So if you're really working with somebody who understands what they're doing, they should even be able to tell you that I'm recommending that you invest here. This is the past performance. And based on the following facts, I believe that this fund should still perform well going forward. You are looking for good returns. And if you can get those good returns without paying too much in terms of investment charges, every fund fact sheet, that's why I'm saying it's important that you get the fund fact sheet. You know, even if you can't read and understand everything, but at least, you know, have it with you as part of, you know, the investment advice process. There is something written there called TIC, Total Investment Charge. You should be looking at that, and that gives an idea how much of the money that you're putting in is going to be going back to paying fees. And they're expressed in different terms and so forth, but the fees and, you know, are expressed on that fund fact sheet. So go for, you know, investments that will give you good returns without you paying too much in fees.
All right. Okay. We're keeping it basic. Okay. So one of the things that I read here that threw me off is that some life covers will underwrite you throughout your life. And if you become ill later on in life, they will increase your premiums and you might not afford to keep it. Get life cover that underwrites you at application only. What does the statement mean?
Oh, that point is one of the points I mentioned in the 20 points that every woman should know about their money.
Yes.
Underwriting is basically a term that insurance companies use, and all it means is we are risk rating you.
Okay.
When they give you life cover, they will ask you certain questions about your health, and sometimes even the health of your parents. Some lifestyle questions. Do you smoke? You know, smoking causes cancer, so they are very nervous about people who smoke. They will ask you if you do things like, what do they call it, bungee jumping and all those scary sports, which could result, you know, in damage to you. They will take your blood tests in some instances. I mean, there is life cover of late where they do not require blood tests, but, you know, depending on the amount of life cover you want, if it's a high amount, about 5 million, generally they will still ask you to do blood tests to check for certain illnesses and all of that. So that is called underwriting. Now, you generally when we're young, we are healthy and we pass the underwriting test with flying colors.
Of course.
But as we grow older, sometimes we get lifestyle disease. Think of the silent disease, for instance. Some diseases are said to be silent because you may be walking around with the disease, you are not even aware. These are things like your hypertension, high blood pressure, sometimes even diabetes. Unless you're one of those people that test regularly, you might not even know that you've got some of these diseases. As we grow older, also we pick up weight, which also sometimes we pick up weight, which could also be detrimental to our health.
Yes.
Now, if your insurance company underwrites you throughout your life, imagine you took your life cover, you were 20, you were healthy, the premiums were affordable. Now you are in your 50s, they have an option or the right to underwrite at any point. What if at that point you have something has gone wrong with your health? Maybe you have diabetes, or you have high blood pressure, or some other dread disease. If obviously when they underwrite at that point and they discover that your premiums are going to go up, and you might not even afford the premiums at that point.
Yeah.
And therefore, for me, one of the key things, when you take out life cover with anyone, ask the question, what is the underwriting philosophy of this company? Am I going to be underwriting now, or will I be underwriting throughout my life? Because if you are going to be underwriting throughout your life, then you are at risk because you might not afford that life cover later on in life, which is when you might need it the most.
Sure. Really, really interesting. We're in conversation with financial advisor Phumelelo Ndumo, talking 20 important facts about money that all women should know. It's a continuation of a conversation. And so, yeah. So let's talk about marriage and money, which is something we generally don't think about when we are very much in love, and we just want to settle down, and everything they do is cute and adorable, and and all that jazz. And then Sis Pumelele comes along and says, "Did you seek legal advice before you got married?" And nobody wants to hear that. But let's talk about it, because you have it in your list here, and so it must be important. So just run it down for us. Why is it important to get legal advice before you get married?
It's two main reasons, Bonolo. One is from a business perspective. When you are in business, and remember, at a young age when you're getting married, you might not be in business. You could be working for somebody. Yeah. Because none of us know what the future has in store for us. But what if later on you go into business? So that is one of the reasons why you need to think about the marriage contract that you get into. Should you get into business later on in life, and you just got married, in terms of property, that might not be the best for you at that point of your life. And the reason I say that is, remember that I think the stat is in the first 5 years, 80% of businesses fail in our country.
Goodness. So
if your business fails and you are married in terms of property, chances are you could end up losing everything. Failure is part of success. And if you are going to be in business and you are going to succeed in business, you should accept that, like, chances are I'm going to fail. And should you fail, your family, your home, your children must be protected against your business failure. So getting into the right marriage contract could safeguard your family against a potential business failure in future. And of course, the other well-known reason is, unfortunately, divorce is a reality. And if you were to get divorced, what does that mean? So, as I always say, there is absolutely no one-size-fits-all marriage contract. Every couple is unique. Their circumstances are unique. And the best thing to do is, I've written about this. I have a whole chapter in the book, Before You Say I Do. What are some of the things that you should take into account? That's just to give you thoughts and to prompt your thinking and to understand the pros and cons, but that's not good enough. Having read through that chapter, then I'll say you need to see a lawyer before you get married. And yes, it's going to cost you money, depending on who you see. Around 5,000 rands is also determined by the value of your estate at that point. But generally, we get married while we're young. There is not much there, so it's not too expensive. And it might save you a lot of problems in the future. So I think this day and age, before you say I do, you really need to apply your mind in terms of the marriage contract that you want to enter into.
All right, we will pack that one before I get accused of breaking up happy engagements. I'm nervous. I'm sure they're...
maybe strengthening them.
Maybe. It could be strengthening them. You never know, because if nothing else, the information doesn't hurt, so that you know.
Yes. And we have such an emotional attachment to money, Bunolo. And some of us, we come from families which have got good relationships with money, and others, we come from families where money is a taboo. You don't even speak about it. And some people have got such good money habits. They will save their money, they will not waste their money. And oftentimes they marry the opposite.
Yes.
Somebody who wants to spend all the money.
It's usually the case.
And spend. Yes. So how do you deal with that? So I think there's a lot beyond just the marriage contract itself.
Yeah.
Even the discussions that you should have about money and how you are going to treat money, and you are going to have a family together and the children together, how are you going to treat, you shouldn't be even having arguments around public school or private school if you have spoken about these things at the right time.
No, I hear you. Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. As we wrap it up, right, you talk about funeral policies not being underwritten and how it's possible to reduce that cost. And we know, and I mean, maybe less so for our white brethren, but for our black brothers and sisters, funerals are expensive. In fact, COVID has in a way saved us that expense by limiting how many people can attend, etc. But the possibility of reducing the cost really caught my attention there. So can you talk us through this, please?
Okay. There are a number of ways. If that funeral policy is in your private capacity, so it's not part of your employee benefits, generally it's already expensive.
Okay.
Earlier, we spoke about underwriting. So with funeral policies, it's not an underwritten benefit. So there's no underwriting, which means all they want when you're taking funeral policy for somebody is the name of that person as they appear in the ID, is the ID number, and that's about it. And you've got your funeral policy.
Yeah.
So the reality is you could be covering somebody, Bonolo, who is lying in bed in hospital somewhere very ill, and you're just crossing your fingers that they'll live for at least 6 months and then the funeral policy will pay. So because there's no underwriting, they will never ask you about the health of this person. Generally speaking, they are much more expensive. And I've seen this so many times. Hence, we now educate our customers and we say, do you know that if we have existing funeral policies, by the very nature that there is no underwriting, they are expensive. And we say, you shouldn't hear it from us. We're happy to do a comparative quote so you see for yourself. We all want to save money, especially now with COVID-19 and job losses and pay cuts and so forth. So if there's one place where many people could save a lot of money is with their funeral policies. So how do you then reduce the cost? You can then, and it's not everyone who allows you to do this, but some insurance companies, when they give you life cover, remember with your life cover, you are underwritten. So if you then add family members for funeral, they then also give them some concession from a cost perspective.
Okay.
So the rate is not as expensive as it normally is with an underwritten funeral policy.
Okay.
And also if there's an existing funeral policy, because this is another challenge, how can you cancel something that's there?
Yes.
Because these funeral policies come with waiting periods, and usually the waiting period is 6 months. So if the funeral policy is already in place, some of these companies are also willing to waive the waiting period.
Yeah.
So it only applies if it's a totally new policy. This person never had a funeral policy in the past. So I think this is something that we as women need to be aware of, because many women have funeral policies, and sometimes they're paying over 1,000 rands per month, and they could be paying much less if only they knew how to go about it.
No, absolutely. We've gotten a question coming in here on our WhatsApp line. This person says, good day, Bonolo and Sis Phumelele. Any advice on someone who's 55 years? Is it late to invest with good returns at this stage?
No, investments have got no age group. So you can still invest at 55, and you can even invest for your newborn baby. So yes, there's nothing stopping anyone from investing. And at 55, usually people go on pension or retirement at 60 or 65 at the latest.
Yeah.
So you still have, a good 5 to 10 year period to invest.
All righty. Sounds good. Thank you so much, as always. We learned so much, and I've been taking mental notes, and I've been thinking about everyone I'm going to be talking to, and some people advice that I'll be passing on in light of our conversation today. So much, much appreciated. May the good Lord bless you. And as always, I'll be sharing your contact details.
Bonolo,
yes.
While you share our contact details, could you also please share about the Zoom session tomorrow evening at 6?
Oh, yes.
This is where we will be talking about the book, and people will have the opportunity to ask whatever questions
they have.
Yes, so that
All
is happening tomorrow evening at 6, and hopefully you still have the Zoom sheet.
Yes, I do. Okay, I'm looking at it right now. Perfect,
okay,
will do.
Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Bonolo.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was financial advisor, the Phumelele Nduma of Tutuka SA. If you want to get in touch with them, 011-568-2635. That's the office line. WhatsApp number 064-513-1021. You can drop them an email on info@tutuka.sa or check out the website tutuka-sa.co.za. So once again, email address info@tutuka That's thutuka-sa.co.za. You can send them a WhatsApp on 064-513-1021 or look for the website www.tutuka-sa.co.za.
Faith, hope and love. Experience victory in your life on 657 AM.